What's good, everyone? It's your girl Nicole here, Oshia, coming to you on this Wednesday morning. And I am on here live specifically to respond to a comment that was made in a recent post. And I'm paraphrasing what it said, but it was basically asking about when my current group program is called Live Your Liberation, and the program is about reclaiming the connection and empowerment from the womb space, or reclaiming the power from our voices and through our presence, our body, right? This is really step one of deepening into womb wisdom. And I take a firm stance that claiming and reclaiming the wisdom, the power, the sacredness, and the knowledge from the womb, is a revolutionary act. It's an empowering presence, and it's a rooted and very powerful place to be and to embody. Because for so long, systems have really numbed out the sacredness and the power of the womb space. And so we're in an epidemic of pain in the womb, pain in our menstrual cycles, being dismissed in certain spaces that we're supposed to trust, and given and really suppressing and limiting the power of our womb space to just sex, pregnancy, and abstinence. And so the question that came forth is and again, I'm paraphrasing, with all the fierceness of standing for liberation, what about the liberation of women, in Palestine, in other places that are challenged with even speaking their voice? And so I'm going to do my best to address this. I have no script. I am just speaking raw and vulnerable. And what is really present in my mind is that, I don't have all the answers to solve, world's problems. Problems is not the right word. Challenges. However, this work speaks to things that every woman goes through. And the way we go about it culturally is going to be very different, because every culture has like an ecosystem of, quote unquote, rules, way of life. It's culture, language, it's its own, way of doing things. And, being in a society, in North American society, we're very privileged in being able to have that free speech for the most part, have that free speech where, women are able to share more and are able to express more and are able to collaborate and really speak our truth more than in other parts of the world. And while we can, I think that one of the biggest things that we can do is to be able to speak to, the commonality that we all share, and also to not to allow the conversation of what we stand for die down. So while there is places that, for a woman to speak up, it's a matter of life and death. I currently have a friend right now, and unfortunately I can't say her name because it's really detrimental. She is in imprisonment right now for speaking up, for living a truth that goes against her government, and she is having to fight for her life right now. It's unfair. It's disgusting. It's absolutely crazy that we're still having to deal with these things in 2025. And it feels like, we're helpless. And I sometimes feel helpless. Sometimes when this work comes out and I'm just like, how is this helping? How is this helping? What is the point? What is the point of, of learning about our bodies and dancing and deepening in our spirituality and deepening and gathering and connection and sisterhood and all of this? What's the point? I sometimes ask that myself. How does this help women across the world who are in famine or who are struggling to, feed their babies? How is this helping with women across the world that, are struggling to get like adequate feminine care? How is this helping? Well, here I am in a place where I have access to hot water. I have access to a warm bed. I have a shelter and a roof over my head, like all these things, food in the fridge, all these things that, I have privilege. I'm never not aware of the first world privilege that is here, that my friends, my family, my colleagues have. I understand that. And yet there is also a deep feeling of like, how does this, work help, women across the world? I can't speak for every woman. I can't identify with every woman. However, we as women, we all have this we have commonalities and we have common experiences. And so when I talk about the womb, all women will go through a bleeding time. All women will have experiences through their womb space. All women will have to go through some challenging times with their womb. All women has a voice that deserves to be heard. All women will go through or have gone through some sort of suppression, shame, rejection, frustration, and, wanting to be stuffed into a box. And all women have gone through some sort of womb pain. And here I am. I'm a woman of color. So I'm very clear, and I'm still, uncovering things about my lineage that have gone through the unimaginable violation of the body, unimaginable violation of the spirit and of the soul, of the voice, of a person's value, and just violence on the mere fact that this exists in the world. And I always can trace back from the ancestors, from the lineage. They always wanted the next generation to do better, to speak up to speak up for the voices that couldn't speak up for themselves, to stand for something with purpose, to serve with respect, honor, and dignity. And that's what I try to do. I may not always get it right. I may not always say the right thing. This message here may not be enough for everyone. But this is the foundation of what I can stand on, of where I share from my own lived experience and my own and tapping in and deepening into my lineage experience. The things that are going on across the world, in Palestine and Ukraine, and in different countries in Africa, even in my own country in Canada, all over across the world, there is suppression of women and our bodies all across the world. And how do we stand up for that? All I can do is stand from a place from a shared and a lived experience, and then also lead with compassion, empathy, and in a space of listening, listening in the uncomfortable spaces, listening with truth, with respect of one's cultures, respect of a person, respect for myself, and respect for the people that I serve, and move from that place. And we are in a space right now in our society, in our current ecosystem, where it is, every day is a day that we can stand and speak up for those who may not be able to speak up for fear they will lose their lives. They will, their families will be without their mothers or daughters, or we can not let their voices go silent. So when I stand in this work, I do stand for the greater good of all women, but at the same time, knowing that, I may not be, I do what I can. And we all do what we can, whether it's a small action that nobody sees, or it's a big action that is broadcast to the world. Knowing that my intention is to speak to the upliftment and deep reverence of honor and respect, and also advocacy for women, for the body, the womb, the heart, living our I feel like living our truth can sometimes seem cliche, but living from a place of integrity. And I try to do my best. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I don't get it right all the time, but I'm always learning. And so I would like to, I feel that there's a completion here, and I'd like to, and I want to thank you for the dear sister who asked about how does liberation, mean for those that are in places that it's really challenging. It's hard when options are, not there. And so here we are, we have a frequency, we have a collective energy that when we stand for something important, when we stand for something real, that energy ripples out. And the action that we do with it also ripples out. And any action, any small, big, medium-sized, whatever action that we do to take, it does make a difference. So I mentioned earlier that I have, excuse me, tea. I mentioned earlier that I currently know someone who has been imprisoned, and we're praying for her safe release. I can't say her name, unfortunately. I can't say which country, for fear that it gets back to her, and they could use that in not so nice terms. So what I'd like to do is complete this video with a prayer. And so if you feel called to join me in this prayer, we pray for the women and children and the men that are in captivity. We pray for those for their safe return to their families. We pray for the health and the protection of the woman's womb. We pray for the protection and health and safe return. Allow them to be shielded with the most highest frequency of love. And as we say this prayer, I send this prayer to my dear sister. I deepen in deep trust and faith that she will be released and returned to her family, safe and alive. And that her light will never be extinguished. Blessed be. Ashe. Aho. And so it is. Blessings, everyone.